Last week, we started a conversation that was sparked from a conversation I had had on Instagram. Somebody had reached out and was essentially like, if you had to start over again, what would you do differently? What would you do? Okay. And we talked about that. So if you missed last week's conversation, make sure to go back and check it out. I'll make sure it's in the show notes, etc. before so you can find it easily. But the caveat, or I guess what I want to talk about today was something that came up a little bit later in that conversation because we talk all the time about, money isn't one size fits all. It is specific to you and the strategy and all those things. We're going to get into that a little bit today. But there was a question that I asked so that I had, the context that I needed to be able to answer. And the answer that I got, there was a lot of things that showed up. And it hurts. I hurt for them because I see so many of the things that show up that shouldn't, there we go, I use that word, that we should not subject ourselves to. And it's very important that we talk about this and have this conversation so that you can stand in your power and truly be unstoppable when it comes to your finances. All right, let's just get to it and I'll explain. Welcome back to the Your Money, Your Life podcast. I'm your host, Amy Circa. We are back talking about essentially, if I had to start over again, what would I do differently? And this was, again, sparked from a conversation that happened on Instagram. If you missed last week's episode, it's linked in the show notes below because that'll give you some context on where we're at. But within that conversation, because like I said in the intro, money is not a one size fits all thing. And that's a lot of I can give you, we talk principles and there's specific strategy. Actually, even I'm having fun redoing this within several of the training programs. It's getting more clear on hey, this is what this could look like. And this was what this could look like as well. But we need to have the principles in place, but how you actually execute on that can be and should be individual to you because again, it has to work for your money, your life, hence the name of the podcast, right? So within the conversation that we were having, it was why is this showing up? And essentially what she shared is I can do this. There was a pivot made within the business. Okay. So I can talk about this all day long, not think about it. And I've done it for 4 years and I was averaging about 2,000 a month. She had built a team. She had things going on, but then there was a course, a training of some sort. And I'm not familiar with the specifics, so I don't know exactly what was shared, all of those things that opened her eyes to another way of running her business. But the problem was, and I've got the verbiage here that she used, it was going through that I had my eyes open to how I should really be working my business. And within that conversation, I felt how discounted the success that she had already had was. Because it's, again, how you should be working your business. And so many times we can feel that external pressure on things have to look this certain way. We have to do it, with one-to-one coaching first, or you have to create digital products, or you're not leveraging your time. And there's not those shoulds. How you operate your business and how it feels in alignment. Now, maybe this will feel more in alignment for this season of life that she's in, but it's not how you should be working your business. We need to not discount the success that we had before or that you still have. It just opens the next door. Because you were able to do that, now you have the opportunity to move forward. And this is kind of what we were talking about last week with okay, what would you do differently if you were starting over? And that's almost regret energy. And okay, I understand now we're approaching this from a sense of where you're at now, the knowledge that you have now, those things, what you would have done differently. But at the same time, we talked about, it's because of those things that happened that have allowed you to be here now. Today, it's about there's not one way that you should be operating your business. There's not one way that you should be living your life. There's not one way that you should be taking care of your health. There's not one way that you should be managing your money. This might be a shorter episode because all of a sudden I've got like a frog in my throat. But when we remove those shoulds, and we can look at the principles, and yes, we want to have certain things in place. Principles. We want to have we want to have something in place to help you manage your money, because the principle of managing your money and taking care of what you have helps empower you to make more money. And managing your money and making your money are two different skills. And we have to have both because, when you manage your money, it allows you to make more money. When you make more money, it allows you to manage your money. We talk about the framework. It's all interconnected. But those are the principles. We're not getting into the specifics of you have to put 10% here and 20% here. I had another client that was sharing something. We have a mutual coach, and she's been in my programs for a while, and she was hearing the other coach train on the system that is the framework for what I created my Budgeting Simplified and Prosperity Simplified system off of. So she was like, hey, is this like where this came from? And she was hearing those things. And now I was not on that coaching call, so I cannot speak to the context of it. But I was hearing the percentages talked about. And it was like, hey, we need to do this and we need to do this. Like that, or it was like 10% here and 20% here. And I will share the goal percentages. And I do that inside Budgeting Simplified, Prosperity Simplified, and Money Mastery Academy. You have those there. Like, okay, this is kind of what we're looking or could be looking to work towards. But for most of us, we're not at those percentages starting out. So it doesn't do us any good to talk about that, because you have to know where you're at now before you can even work towards a goal. And if we sit here and look at this, that it's supposed to be 50% of your income on your necessities and you're at 80%, when you set up the system, the hardest part to do is set everything up, right? This is why I have the extra support for the implementation and all of those things. When you work to set it up, that's the hardest part. So if you do that work, you get yourself to take the action that you need to do, and then you feel defeated because you're at 80% instead of the 50% that they want to talk about, that's not helpful. That's, again, that should. Instead of looking at the principle of we need to know what percentage things are at, so then you can make the decision on what you want to prioritize. Because your life, things can be totally different for you on what you want to prioritize. Maybe you're in a season that you want to save a lot more. So yes, your fixed necessities are lower, but you want to lower your fixed necessities, but you're going to increase the savings. Maybe you're in a season that you're not as worried about saving and you want to make sure, maybe it's while your kids are young, or you've got a couple years left until they go off to college, or, they're almost grown and they're going to be out of the house and you want to spend more time in that play. There's so many different scenarios on what's important to you. And we can only uncover that if we work to remove all of the shoulds, that we should be doing this. So next time that we're working towards something and you're like, I need to do this. I need to have a podcast. I need to do another launch. I need to not spend money on this. Whatever it might be, ask yourself why. Why is that I need to do this? Is it because you enjoy it and it's something that you want to do? Is it because you put the societal pressure on you that, hey, it should look like this, or this is not okay if you want this, or this is okay, this is the only option, or you're behind if you haven't achieved X? I was listening to a coaching call earlier, and she was talking about, where she's at. She was having a conversation with her coach, and he was telling her, if I had achieved the space where you're at by the age of 43, then I would be so much further ahead. And that appreciation looking back, you have so much room left. But at the same time, she was talking about how there's times where it's where I'm already 43. So I've already done all these things. I should be farther ahead. And again, it's that that view that we have to look back at it. Like, why are we making these things? Is it from a place of where we are standing in our power, standing in our worth, and knowing, or detaching your worth even from the price point? Because we can talk about this like with money, even. Like, I have always been one that I want to make sure that I have offers available if money is a problem, because I've had that. I've been that person. But that doesn't take anything away from the fact that we can charge more from with a more experience, and I can charge less. So, okay, let me back up. I can charge less or I can charge more. And regardless, it has nothing to do with my worth, because the amount of money that I've received it's not tied to my worth as a person. It's not tied to my worth as a coach, all of those things. But that takes time. It takes intentionality to be able to show up in that regard and remove that. But again, it's the should. You should charge high ticket because that's the only way you're going to make money. Or you should charge low ticket because otherwise you're just taking advantage of people. Both of those things are those shoulds that we have to remove that should perspective to be able to stand in our power and the truth that you know. This is so critical. And it's something that we have to continually work on. There's new levels. I had a coach that I was working with that described it as a staircase. So we're going up a spiral staircase, and often we'll be like, okay, I've took care of that. Woohoo, we're done. Don't have to worry about it again. But as you circle up the spiral staircase, you feel like you come back around to the problem, which you kind of do, but you're on level 4 of the problem versus level 1. So this is going to be a continual practice, because the energy and the mindset and those things are something that we're going to continually work on. But it's going to get easier. It's going to get better. There's things like you are still growing, and there's nothing wrong with where you're at now. But when you can, and we'll circle back here to like, what would I do differently? The quicker, the faster that you can learn and embody. Not just learn, because we can learn for our head knowledge and know things, but not embody it. And there's a disconnect there. So the faster that you learn and embody these things about who you are, the faster that you see more success. And that's really why I'm really so excited about the Unstoppable experience and finally being able to bring this into reality, that this 12-month experience here working together and having the hybrid of like giving one-to-one support and the group mentorship, and you're going to have all of the training and the coaching, and it's all going to be done. You're not going to have to worry about, okay, do I need this? Do I need that? Like, it's all going to be there for you, that whole package, so that we can spend 12 months together to really up-level you and help you step into unstoppable finances. So like I mentioned last week, it is not available ready yet. I haven't officially released anything, but I have a pre-sale price, which is significantly less. If you were like, I feel like this could be for me, send me a message on Instagram. Let's have a conversation about it at Amy Circa. That link is in the show notes as well, because this is possible for you. And I believe in your capacity and your capacity for greatness. And I think this is going to be an amazing container when you're ready to show up and to truly step into that. So I'd love to invite you for the pre-sale waitlist. Send me a message on Instagram. All right. I think that's it for now. So we'll see you next time. If you're struggling with shame and guilt around your finances, whether it's debt, impulse spending, mistakes from the past, or the fact that you still haven't hit your income goal, then it's time for you to work with me. There are different levels of support and price points that you can use on the path to removing that guilt and shame so you can step into your unstoppable life. After all, your finances are unique to you, and your support should be too. Go to workwithamy.com to get started with one of my most popular programs, or you can book a Q&A call with me and we'll figure out what that next step should be. And those links are hanging out in the description of this video as well.